Welcome to this Google Hangout all about drinking whiskey on spherical ice. So we're going to talk about everything from spherical ice and how we create it. This is actually a spherical ice mold produced by Lenovo Products, and it has a very innovative design. There are a number of different designs out there that you can use to create a spherical ice mold, but this is the best design, and the reasons for that are that this is the only design that you can actually open up and fill much like an egg cup. And because it has a very wide aperture, it's very easy to pour distilled water, which is what we recommend, into... And I've got a little bit of back noise here.
That's okay. That's cool, man. We can't actually pick it up. It's sounding good.
Good.
By the way, hi everyone. This is Daniel Hall, and I'm with you as well. And I've got
good.
I've got my whiskey right here. It's a Maker's Mark. This is my poison of choice. This is what I like. And we're gonna have some fun today. By the way, Scott, I don't know if you've noticed, but I am wearing my my orange shirt. I'm getting ready for the World Cup.
Cool.
And you know, this shirt represents which team? What team do you think this represents here, Scotchy?
Geez, that looks like what? Spain, maybe?
No.
Brazil, maybe?
No.
Italy, maybe?
How about the Netherlands?
The Netherlands, you know.
Yeah.
I was kind of rolling through the stronger teams, right? But I wasn't rolling through the cooler teams. Let's put it that way, right?
Exactly right. So at any rate, I'm ready to have some fun today, and let's show these folks how to actually do these spherical ice molds and pour it over the whiskey of your choice. I see that you have some Chivas there, which is, I believe, a blended whiskey. Is that right?
Yes, it is. This is a blended whiskey, and if I'm not mistaken, that particular bottle of Maker's Mark that you showed was also a blended whiskey, I believe. I don't believe it's a single malt. And the difference between a single malt and a blended whiskey is very important. When they actually make the whiskey, the ground, particularly in the case of Scotch, the peat that's used, it's a type of ground. It's kind of like a dried, think of a dried marsh. And when they actually burn that peat, it has a particular flavor to it, or aroma. And that aroma, as slight as it is, actually permeates the mash. And then when the mash, of course, is this goopy solution with yeast, and of course yeast is a microbe that, when it consumes sugar, it adds an OH to the molecule and makes alcohol, and in fact ethanol, which is a particular type of alcohol. Because other types of alcohol, like methanols and so forth, are very toxic to human beings. Ethanol is also toxic to human beings. The human liver has a hard time processing it. And in fact, what gives you a hangover is ketone, and which is also a paint thinner. So when you drink too much alcohol, you end up really poisoning yourself. So the idea behind proper, refined, elegant drinking is not to over-medicate yourself. In moderate amounts, alcohol is fine. The body can actually do just fine in processing it. And I actually studied biochemistry as an undergrad. That's why I know about these things like alcohol ketone shifts and processes and so forth. And we want to be very careful about just not drinking too much, because if we do drink too much, we'll burn out our liver, and then we can't enjoy alcohol anymore. So that's why I'm much more moderate in my drinking today, and I enjoy my drinking. Now the main thing is what I do is this is a very nice glass. These are actually some artistic glasses from Taos, New Mexico, that were actually designed many years ago, but they're still sold, and they're a very interesting design. But I will take 1 ounce of whiskey in this case, Chivas Regal, which is a blended Scotch, And as I was saying, you know, each distillery has its own aroma and its own taste, and some have superior aromas and superior taste, just like with wine. And so what the deal is with a blended whiskey is they'll take a number of single malt whiskeys and they'll mix them into a blend, and then you have different grades of those single malts. So you have very high quality single malts, and then you have single malts that are aged for longer periods of time. So when we're looking at for instance, a lower grade blended whiskey, this would be a lower grade blended whiskey. This is a Johnnie Walker Red Label. And by the way, if you take most of the U.S. population, and if you were to put a shot glass of Red Label, Gold Label, and Blue Label, and ask them to identify which was which, very few people in the population would be able to do it. So unless you have a very, very fine palate, and you'll know if you do, then you know, spending excessive amounts of money, especially on blended whiskeys, is not worth the money. Now, in the case of single malts, you will notice differences between single malts because there are can be some dramatic differences in taste. What I do in order to make the perfect chilled whiskey, and this is also very important, is that we only use blendeds when we're making whiskey on the rocks. And the reason is because a blended whiskey, because all of those different flavors from the different distilleries are being blended in together, there's no particular signature flavor to a blended whiskey. So it's when they're blending up higher and higher grades, the cost goes higher, but you're not necessarily going to get any distinctive flavor. The main thing is that we don't want any dilution, or want to minimize the dilution. So we pour in the whiskey first, and for instance, if we pour in, that's a 1 ounce of whiskey, and I take a round ball of ice and I add it to the glass with tongs very carefully. There it is. And see how gently I did that. And what's really nice about that is that if you'll notice now, the whiskey is only in touch with a very small portion of the glass. One of my best students in finance is Carlos Vila, and he has an undergraduate degree in electrical engineering from MIT. And the other day he was telling me why this spherical shape and this very large size is so efficient in chilling whiskey. This glass already feels cold, and it's just been in here for probably less than 15 or 20 seconds. Now, I'm going to leave that there. That's not the one that I'm going to actually join. I'm just going to leave it there so you can see how long this whiskey will actually remain chilled, Daniel. This is just absolutely amazing. And in fact, I actually did a chill test where I used a more restricted glass, so the liquid in the 1 ounce was up higher on the ball, and the ball actually, that ball of ice actually lasted 1 hour and 11 minutes, which is just amazing. Now, regular cube ice, if you use, you know, Daniel Hall and I are, we love whiskey. Both of us are crazy about whiskey. And if you have, for instance, crushed ice is only going to last about 15 minutes. And the reason for that is that alcohol is a very, very strong solvent, okay? I was talking about ketone. I mean, I think, Daddy, you've heard of ketone, right? It's paint thinner, right? So basically, alcohol is a very close cousin to paint thinner. So it's a strong solvent, so it really, really eats through ice. And so what's really cool about these ice spheres is that it makes it really hard for the alcohol to cut through the ice. Now, while I'm preparing the next glass, and you can watch me do that, Daniel, you can talk a little bit about whiskey and so forth as well. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that I really like, I'm not too much of a Scotch drinker. Or, as a college student, I shall we say overdosed on Scotch, and decided at that point in my life that maybe Scotch wasn't the best choice for me. So I ended up really, really loving the taste of bourbon. And for those of you that don't know, in order to qualify as a bourbon, you have to have at least 50 plus 1, okay, a majority, in other words, of corn grain. That's what makes it a bourbon. And in my opinion, one of the best, basically mass-produced blended or bourbons is Maker's Mark. I really, really like this stuff. And again, at least 51, or I should say 50 plus 1. Most people say 51%, but it's really not. It's 50 plus a little bit more. Just a little over 50% of corn grain makes it a makes it a bourbon. And I like that. And by the way, I've got my Lenovo Ice Sphere mold here, and I'm going to join you if I might. So I'm going to. One of the other cool things I wanted to ask you, Scotchy, is a lot of people really like to have clear globes, right? Do you have some tips on getting that globe, that sphere of ice, as clear as possible? So I'm just going to actually put that there like that, and there's my there's my ice. Now what I like to do is I like to pour down the side of the glass. That's how I like it, rather than put it in over the top, because I like my ice in first, and then I like to pour down the side, just like this for a bourbon. And I'm not quite as precise as you are, Scotchy, but right there. Oh God, that smells
Isn't that
good.
wonderful? This is a 2-ouncer right here. Oh yeah.
So at any rate, that's how I like to make my bourbon. And so all I could say, we're going to let that sort of chill there a little bit. I don't know if you could hear that.
Oh yeah, I can hear it, and I can hear mine too. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'm going to taste test this to see if it's cold enough.
Please do, and I'll talk about bourbon a little bit here as well. So I'm actually more of a Scotch fan. I actually started as a hardcore bourbon fan. My favorite was in college was Wild Turkey, right?
Oh my!
Oh yeah, well I loved it, and so some friends of mine when I used to live in Brazil, these really wealthy industrialists would buy these super insanely expensive, micro distillery straight from Scotland on these hidden distilleries, and they really turned me on to single malts. And so the big difference is that when they use all that corn, it makes a sweeter mash, and so it makes a sweeter whiskey, right? And so I do have to admit that I do enjoy bourbons a very great deal. It's just for me, they're a different kind of a drink. They have a different kind of a flavor. It's still whiskey. It's just a different kind of class, and I really enjoy it. And in fact, I do, and I respect bourbon enough to where for each one of the recipes on the Lenovo Products website, we select a song for each of the recipes. And of course, the song for the whiskey recipe is George Thorogood, one Scotch, one bourbon, one beer. And back in the 80s when I was a college student, there was some sort of band. It was a band that had #1 hit or something, and there was this nobody knew the name, who the opening group was, and this was Indiana University. And this guy, this white guy, came ripping down, running up and down, hitting these riffs, these blues riffs that blew my mind. And it was George Thorogood, and I've been a George Thorogood fan ever since. So, go to the Lenovo Products website if you've never heard that song, One Scotch, One Bourbon, One Beer. And Thorogood's pretty amazing because he loved to tell stories while he's singing his songs. Are you a Thorogood fan there, Daniel?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. By the way, we've been talking about these how we love these great spherical ice cubes, right? Or they're not cubes, but these ice rounds. So I wanted to say a word about how we make those. And I know you started off saying that we use the Lenovo silicone mold, which looks like this.
Yes, that's correct.
And essentially, the really cool thing is that they're really easy to fill. And I suggest a reverse osmosis water or a distilled water to make that really, really clear, or as clear as possible. And then you just put it in the freezer. Fill it up with water, in there, and then put the cap on it. and it's pretty much ready to put into the freezer, and away you go. In about 2 or 3 hours, you've got that nice, beautiful.
Yeah, the ice ball. And let's
ice
talk
round,
about
right?
yes, let's talk about the clear ice question that you asked me before, right? So the reason if you look at these ice balls, for instance, they have absolutely gorgeous patterns. These blossoms of air bubbles and streams that are flowing out through the ice, and that's the way I prefer it. I actually like looking at the patterns in the ice. So I'm not a big fan of clear ice. But how do you get clear ice? Well, the way you get clear ice is you have to get the air out of the water. Now that may sound strange to you, but if you stop and think about it, how the heck do fish breathe in water? They're not breathing water, they're breathing air. And the reason is because air is soluble in water. Let me repeat that. Air is soluble in water. So it may look like clear water when it's running and flowing, but there's a certain amount of gas that's trapped in the water, and so when the water freezes and turns into ice crystals, it pressures that air out of the water and it goes streaming out in these blossoms, and that's why you get these blossoms of air. So in order to create perfectly clear ice, the water has to be degassed. Now, the way that you could possibly try to do it in the refrigerator would be to take distilled water, and it's best if it's both reverse osmosis and also distilled. So that means it's going to go through a special filter that only allows water molecules to pass through, and then on top of that, it's going to be boiled. Those two things alone are going to degas the water to some extent, and that's how we do it in a chemistry or a biochemistry lab. That's one of the ways that we degas the water. And then the additional way is that there are some freezers where they'll have a vibration of the freezer, and what that's doing is it's kicking the bubbles off the side that build. The interesting thing, though, is that the reason I'm so excited about all of these cool culinary tools is because I actually started as a cook. And one of the cool areas of culinary specialty is this ice carving stuff, right? So they'll actually carve a sculpture of a fish, and if you've ever watched that being done, those are absolutely perfectly clear, massive blocks of ice. So how the heck do these engineers create these massive blocks of ice? And of course, the way they do it is they have sophisticated machinery that does different kinds of things, from spraying the ice out layer by layer, so that it doesn't have an ability to actually trap gas. That there's different ways that engineers will do it professionally. And you just kind of really have to ask yourself whether or not it really matters to have perfectly clear ice. I think that you'll find over time is that as you enjoy these balls of ice, you're going to be using clear ice just for certain kinds of drinks, and then for other drinks you're going to be using, like for instance, we're going to get into the recipes with sangrias and margaritas, Daniel, and you're going to be learning how to freeze juices. And then as we get further in, we're going to go away from alcoholic drinks. For instance, Daniel and I have been on a diet called the sick, fat, and nearly dead diet, and we're going to show you how to create juice balls, because Daniel doesn't like warm juice. When you juice fresh produce, it doesn't come out cold out of the juicer, and so you can actually create frozen balls of celery juice that you can drop in there, and other juices can be frozen that are really good for creating ice balls. You're going to learn how to do that. But I think that you need to really ask yourself whether completely clear ice is really worth the effort at the end of the day.
So the question though for me is, or for our audience here is, I realize it's difficult to make perfectly clear, right? Perfectly clear ice balls. But what can you do to
the additional thing? The additional thing you can do is that if you've taken chemistry, that you learn that when you create a vacuum, what it does is that vacuum above a liquid actually forces the gas to boil up out of that liquid. That's why water boils. So another thing that you can do is if you're using distilled water, if you're using, especially if you're using distilled reverse osmosis water, is you can boil it twice, let it cool between each boilings, And then you can actually fill the spherical ice mold, and you can put the mold in a food saver vacuum canister, and then vacuum it to as complete of a vacuum as you possibly can, and then put it in the refrigerator and let it cool down for 4 or 5 hours, and then re-vacuum it again to get any gas that's come off of the water, and then put it in the freezer. And then at that point, you're going to have the best odds of actually creating clear ice in the home, Daniel. And it's a scientific and a little bit scientific and complicated process a bit, but you'll get it if you want to do it.
Right. So what's the quickest way, the quickest way to the clearest ice? Okay, I'm not talking about, trying to make it all, just clear.
The quickest way to clear ice. Look, I'll be honest with you. It's really hard to create clear ice. It's a very difficult task. You can see that this particular ball that I've got, you've got two different balls here. One is really, really cloudy, and then the other is much clearer. Okay, and so the reason for that is very possibly, it's hard to say because I didn't actually put these in the mold in a scientific way, but the main point that I want to make is that if you do take the time to just use simply distilled water, that's going to give you the clearest possible ice with the easiest effort. Just only use distilled water. Let's talk about distilled water a second here.
Well, before we do, Scotchy,
yeah.
I want to show folks what I've got out of mine. Now this is just RO water. I don't know if can you see that okay?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, so this is just poured directly in there without boiling, without doing anything, just slap and go.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, there's a band of cloudiness that kind of goes through the middle.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty clear if you look at it.
Yeah. It sure
particularly on the sides. So
yeah.
Again, this is RO water or reverse osmosis.
Reverse osmosis.
So to me, this is great. I love this. Yeah. So.
Reverse osmosis or distilled. And so when you go to Costco, like for instance, I don't want to put a reverse osmosis system in my house. I've had them before, and I've had desalting systems and stuff before, and I just don't want to go through the hassle. Honestly, it's just a personal choice. I think they're fantastic, by the way. I think that if you're considering putting one in, and you've got the right configuration of a house, you have enough space to put a good one in, then they're worthwhile. And if you've got, for instance, a service plan where someone will come around every couple months and deal with them, and I don't like changing out filters and stuff. That's not my job. So not my job title. But when you go and you look for water, always look to make sure that it says distilled drinking water. For instance, this particular brand from Costco says distilled drinking water. So this is how I do it now, but maybe I'm gotten a little bit lazy over the years, and I'm in a condo now where I just don't want to put in the system and go through the hassle of it. Another tip that I want to make to you guys, because somebody needs to tell you, hopefully somebody has told you, but don't ever drink a lot and then treat a hangover with Tylenol. Don't ever do that. This is incredibly liver toxic. It's so liver toxic that people fought for years to get them to put, the toxicity on the label, and they only just did it. And there's been probably hundreds of thousands of liver disease cases just because people were never told that they should never treat a hangover with acetaminophen, which is Tylenol. Aspirin is fine. The best way to treat a hangover is to just try to avoid it in general and drink 12-ounce a glass of water. Daniel, you might say 8 ounces. Per 1 ounce of liquor, or per beer, for instance. Make sure that you keep your body really, really hydrated when you're drinking alcohol, and that's a really important thing to remember. Alcohol is a social event, and so it's easy to forget to keep drinking water. So drink a glass of alcohol, drink a glass of water. Go back and forth. Right, Daniel?
I completely agree with that, and I have one last question, and before we go here, Scotchy,
yeah.
And that is, where do people get this great mold? We've been talking about it, and we were talking about how to use it and how to make great ice with it and all that. But where do people get it?
It's really easy to get. It's right on Amazon.com, and if you're watching this this video after the fact, and you're watching a recording of this video, then there's a link right under this video that'll take you right to the web page where this is actually being sold on Amazon.com, which is real exciting.
Or people can go also to LenovaProducts.com, right?
Yes, absolutely. This is a product by LenovaProducts.com. Lenova Products is a company that's dedicated to products that enhance your refined elegance, and so it's always about improving your image, and just it's just about being cool. Both Daniel and I come from a very bohemian background. We're both well educated and highly successful academically and economically, and that allows us to enjoy experiences that are just freaking cool. That's the only way I can say it. And our favorite experiences are the most bohemian, right? So, when I'm in Brazil, I'm generally hanging out with a bunch of Brazilian executives, and nobody's in a suit, and we're listening to the bossa nova, or we're listening to some sort of cool, Portuguese music that's coming through the scene. Or we're over in Amsterdam, and we're hanging out and kicking back and enjoying different aspects of Dutch culture or Spanish culture. But one of the things that Daniel and I have been able to do as successful professionals is we've been able to have an extremely enjoyable lifestyle. And so along the way, as we've noticed these cool products, I've been really happy, that this company, Lenova Products, has been willing to actually create a line of products that are designed to enhance your refined elegance.
Lovely, lovely.
I don't think that came out the way I wanted it to come out, but this is a hangout.
Yeah,
on my balcony.
We are definitely we are definitely hanging out here for sure.
That is the Caribbean. No, I'm on a Caribbean island, and that is the Atlantic Ocean behind me, by the way.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you are in your condo there, which I've visited. I've actually been in that very spot where you're sitting there. Is really, really close to the beach, and a gorgeous island it is.
Yes, it is.
So here's the thing, folks. If I'm going to say this, and if you've enjoyed this hangout, we want a couple things we want to ask you about. Number one is to share the hangout on your Facebook, on your Twitter feeds, etc. The other thing that we would ask you to do is if you go to LenovaProducts.com, okay, at the bottom of that page, you will see a place where you can put in your name and email address, where you will get new recipes that we are developing for our products, okay? Mm-hmm. And so I want to send you there as well, and to sign up for that list, okay? It's at Lenova, L-A-N-O-V-A, products.com. So those two words, LenovaProducts.com, okay?
Exactly.
And in fact, what I'm going to do here, Scotchy, if it's okay with you, is I'm going to show folks where they can go here to actually jump on the list. And by the way, lots of really good reasons to jump on that list. Not the least of which is you will see additional surprises that you wouldn't be able to see otherwise.
No.
So, and they're going to be well worth your time and attention as well. So I'm actually navigating over there on my browser now, and I'm going to show you here in just a second. I'm going to actually switch over to a screen sharing mode and show you that, if that's cool with you, Scotchy.
Yeah, absolutely. Muito bem.
All right, let's do that. Let me screen share and okay.
And you know, I want to make a comment. As I said, you know, when I was in college, I ran into some family problems. My dad died of cancer, and I had to pick up a job as a short order cook. And with all this culinary training, when I ended up living in places like Brazil, Mexico, and so forth, I actually was able to learn how their drinks were made in the you know, in their real native form. So, you know, you're going to get surprises out of the Google Hangout that we have for LenovaProducts.com all the time. And if you will follow the instructions that I'm showing you, your friends and family are going to start to remark, where did you learn how to, could you give me the recipe for that drink, by the way? You know, how did you make that drink is what they're going to want to know, because the drinks that you're going to learn to make on this Hangout are going to blow your mind, and then they're going to blow everybody else's mind that you know. Right, Daniel?
Absolutely. Now, right here, you should, if you look on your screen, Scott, and you let me know.
I can see it.
All right. So what you're going to do is right down here at the bottom of the page. This is where you're going to put in your name. So you're going to put in your name here.
Beautiful.
And your email address over here. Let's see if I can type. And your email. So we'll put the email in there. And then you're going to hit the join our Google Plus Hangout. It's going to actually put you on the exclusive Lenovo products list. So go ahead and do that. You're going to navigate over here to where it says LenovaProducts.com, LenovaProducts.com with an L-A and then NOVAProducts.com, LenovaProducts.com. And by the way, you can also from this page navigate from this site to Amazon, where this great round ice mold is actually sold. So with that, Scotchy, let's go ahead and close today's Hangout.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah, sure.
Let's talk about what folks can expect in future Hangouts.
Well, one of the upcoming Hangouts that I'm really excited about, Daniel, is how to waste away again in Margaritaville in 10 easy steps, okay? And I'm going to show you actually how to make an authentic Mexican margarita. Now, this one's really close to my heart, guys, because as Daniel knows, I used to live in Mexico. And so I have actually been taught by Mexican culinary artists, and I've actually been shown how they actually make this stuff for real. So that's going to be a real neat one. So make sure that you tune on that upcoming. I believe that one's next week. Okay.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you, Scott, and thanks to all of you. We really appreciate you stopping by. And again, if you like the Hangout, you like the information we shared, please share the Hangout and share this YouTube video, and also like it and comment on it. But most of all, we want you to go and grab this great ice mold, all silicone, completely BPA free and completely safe, and then you too will be able to enjoy really cool and very, shall I say, savvy and sophisticated looking drinks like this. Okay?
Absolutely, Daniel. I agree.
All right. So we shall see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Take care. Over and out.